Should you die with zero or leave a legacy? Those two ideas have sparked one of the biggest debates in retirement planning, especially since Bill Perkins' best selling book, Die with Zero, challenged the traditional idea that the goal is simply to accumulate as much wealth as possible and pass it on to the next generation. This book has caused a lot of people to ask a very important question. Should I spend more of my money while I'm alive? And that's a great question. But after helping people retire for 20 years now, I think both sides of this debate miss one decision that matters even more. Until you answer that question first, it's almost impossible to know whether you should spend more, save more, or leave more behind because the right answer isn't the same for everyone. It depends on your family, your values, your health, your tax situation, and ultimately what you want retirement to look like for you. So instead of asking, should I just die with zero? I think there's an even better question that we should start with. What do you want your money to accomplish? Because retirement isn't about choosing between spending everything or leaving everything behind. It's about making intentional decisions with the wealth that you spent decades building. Maybe you want travel to be one of the key items while you're still healthy to enjoy it. Maybe you want to help your children buy their first house instead of leaving them a large legacy 30 or 40 years from now. Maybe you want to spoil your grandkids and support charities or ministries that have been important to you over the years. Or simply you just want to know that your spouse will be financially secure no matter what happens. And maybe your biggest goal is simply having the confidence to spend money without constantly wondering if you're making a mistake. And the reality is this that your money can often accomplish all of these things. The challenge isn't choosing just one over the other, it's about challenging to understand the balance and how to achieve that. And that's what this video is all about. I want to walk you through a simple 5 step framework that we use to help clients answer one of the biggest questions in retirement. And that is, what is your money actually for? So we can start by defining what enough really means for your retirement. Then we'll talk about how to stress test the experience that you want to have. And then when it makes sense to help your family, how taxes can impact everything with your goals and legacy. And finally, how to give yourself permission to spend with confidence instead of fear. And if you're approaching retirement and want help building a plan that coordinates all of these areas with investments, retirement income, Social Security, your taxes, healthcare, and estate planning all together, then that's exactly what we do here at Cornerstone Wealth Planning. And there's a link in the description below where you can schedule a conversation with our team. So let's get started with the first step, because until you know what enough looks like for you, it's impossible to decide whether you should spend more, save more, or will you be leaving more behind. So step number one, let's decide what enough actually means. And this is where planning, true integrated planning, becomes incredibly valuable. Because most retirees don't underspend because they're cheap. They underspend because they're uncertain. They don't know what's safe, what's reasonable with their overall assets and liquidity and retirement plan. So every spending decision begins to feel risky. And at Cornerstone Wealth Planning, one of the first things that we like to help clients understand is whether they're actually on track. So to begin with, we always want to start out with a personal balance sheet, a retirement income statement. We want to help them properly calculate what their income gap will be in retirement. And this all helps determine a sustainable withdrawal rate and what their plan looks like it will be overall. Now, once those pieces are connected, then everything usually changes because confidence replaces guesswork. Instead of asking, can we afford this vacation? The question becomes, our plan says yes, and that's a much different emotional experience. So that first step is very, very important. This brings us to step number two. Let's stress test your dreams. So one mistake that I often see with people in their planning is that they may plan only for kind of monthly known expenses. So let's think about paying utility bills, insurance costs, groceries, property taxes. Now, all these sort of just normal living expenses or daily bills, these are kind of simple to kind of codify and come up with. But what we really think about next is more dreams. So, money outside of just the basics and necessities, what do we want to dream about? So, ask yourself some key questions. Do you want to take this whole family trip to a fun place, an island, Disney World, or somewhere else every 5 years? Do you want to buy an RV? Do you want to help pay for weddings? How about funding your grandchildren's education? Is it something that you've thought about and wondered if you could afford a vacation property? Maybe you want to start a charitable foundation or a ministry that's key to your heart. Now, these are not random expenses, obviously. Some of these can be very, very expensive to fund, but these become your life goals, things that are mission oriented and purpose oriented for you. So, the earlier these goals become a part of your plan, the more confidence you'll have actually doing them. So, the original video that inspired this discussion made a great point. Most people regret not putting these experience into the big plan from the beginning because if you never model them, then you'll naturally assume that you cannot afford them. So this is exactly why retirement planning is so much more than just investment management. This is about connecting your retirement income, your taxes, your social security decisions, your healthcare planning, estate planning, and your life goals all into one coordinated, integrated retirement strategy. And if that's the kind of planning that you're looking for, then simply there's a link below where you can schedule a conversation with our team to get that started. Because once you understand what your plan actually supports, retirement becomes a lot more enjoyable. Less guesswork, more enjoyable. So this brings us to step number 3. Let's decide when your legacy has the most value. It could be a very intriguing or interesting question. So let's think about it in these terms. Is your money more valuable to your children at age 35 or when they're age 65? Now, for many families, the answer is not even close. Think about when financial pressure tends to be the highest. In your 30s, you're likely buying a home, you're raising children. Maybe this is the time you want to strike out and start a business. Then they have children and their children have college tuition costs. And these are years that often happen decades before parents pass away. That doesn't mean everyone should just give away their wealth today, but it does mean maybe you should intentionally think about timing. So, would annual gifting create more impact? Would paying for your grandchildren's education align better with your values and be really helpful to your kids and grandkids? Would helping your child or even your grandchild purchase a first home create memories that you'll actually be able to enjoy while you're still in good health as well? So that's why when we help clients build retirement plans, we encourage them to think about both lifetime giving and the legacy that they're going to leave behind. So every decision aligns with what matters most to them, not simply leaving whatever happens to remain at the end. And that's where taxes often enter the conversation. Sometimes gifting appreciated assets, sometimes charitable planning, sometimes it's just coordinating the withdrawals from a tax efficient manner. And all this can create opportunities to accomplish your goals most efficiently. But those decisions work best when they're made as a part of an overall plan, not one transaction isolated at a time. All right, this brings us to step number 4, which is don't let taxes decide your legacy. Now, here's another mistake that I've seen over 20 years. People spend decades building wealth and then accidentally let taxes decide where a large portion of it will go. So imagine 2 families with exactly the same amount of wealth. One family leaves everything inside of just traditional retirement accounts. So think about traditional IRAs, 401ks, those sort of assets. The other family spends years intentionally coordinating withdrawals, making Roth conversions at lower tax levels if possible, charitable giving strategies that optimize taxes, and establishing correct and proactive beneficiary designations. So their children may inherit dramatically different after tax amounts, even though both families accumulated the same portfolio. So that's why legacy planning is not just about writing a will or having a trust. It's about deciding which assets should be spent, which should be gifted, which make the most tax sense to be left to your heirs. And when each of these decisions creates the greatest benefit, And this sometimes leads to spending things like your taxable assets first, if that makes sense. Maybe it could be preserving the Roth assets until your passing so your heirs benefit from that the most. That often can make sense. And sometimes making gifts during lower income years could create tax advantages, or it could make more sense to gift appreciated stock or to gift through qualified strategies like qualified charitable distributions if you qualify for those. Now, these are all strategies that could reduce taxes while they support causes that you care about. Now, the key point is this: legacy planning is rarely about a just single document. It's about coordinating your entire net worth, balance sheet, estate, and legacy goals into one. So this is taxes, investment, withdrawals, and everything all put into one integrated strategy. Because every dollar that unnecessarily disappears to taxes is a dollar that cannot be used to improve your life or your beneficiaries. And that's exactly why we coordinate these decisions for clients at Cornerstone Wealth Planning. So instead of looking at taxes and investments and Social Security planning and your retirement income and overall estate planning into separate buckets, we want to build one integrated, cohesive retirement strategy that supports not only one decision, but all the others combined together. So if you'd like help putting this together, there's a link below in this that you can schedule a conversation with our team. Now let's talk about the hardest part of all. And this is giving yourself permission to actually enjoy what you've built. So step number 5, give yourself permission to spend. Now, this may be the biggest challenge that many retirees will face. It's not earning enough is the challenge. It's not that investing enough is the challenge. Not that saving enough is the challenge, but it ends up usually being spending. And it can sound strange, but many people have spent 40 years training themselves to do only save. And along the way, they questioned every purchase, every vacation felt expensive, every slightly luxurious purchase felt unnecessary. And that mindset helped them build financial independence. But retirement requires a little different skill here. We have to learn how to spend intentionally. Now, I've worked with retirees who had every reason to feel financially secure. Their income plan on paper works very well. The withdrawal rate was very sustainable. Her taxes appeared to be under control for the long term. Their health care was already planned for proactively. And their estate plan was ultimately in a good place and complete. Yet they still hesitated to spend just the extra few $1,000s on something like a family vacation that included all family members. Not because they couldn't afford it, but because they were more afraid just simply to do it. Afraid that that one decision might somehow unravel their decades of careful planning. And that's where having a documented retirement income plan usually changes everything. Instead of wondering, can we afford this? You go into the decision already knowing the answer. Instead of hoping that things will work out, you've spent time to stress test the numbers beforehand. Instead of guessing, you're following a written, proven plan. And that confidence really does change things in retirement. Because the purpose of saving wasn't simply to accumulate assets, but it's to create freedom for yourself and your family. Freedom to travel, freedom to help your family, freedom to give to things that are important to you, freedom to enjoy your time while your health allows it, and perhaps most importantly, freedom from constantly worrying about money. So maybe the question isn't, should I die with zero? Or, counter to that, should I leave the biggest inheritance possible? Maybe the better question is this: what do I want my money to accomplish? Do you want unforgettable experiences with your family? Do you want to help your children now while you can watch them benefit from it? Do you want to support the charities and ministries that matter so much to you? Do you want to make sure your spouse is financially secure no matter what happens? Do you want to leave a meaningful inheritance? None of these goals compete with each other, but these goals do require intentional planning to ensure you're doing the ones that matter most to you. Because retirement isn't an investment problem, it's a decision making problem. And those decisions become much easier when every part of your financial plan and financial life work together. After 20 years, I've seen that the happiest retirees that we meet don't necessarily have the largest portfolios. But what they do have is they have some clarity. They know how much income they need and can spend. They know where that income will come from their assets in the plan. They've planned for taxes, not just today, but into the future. They coordinated their best optimal Social Security strategy. They accounted for healthcare costs and how to plan for that. And they've identified to them what matters most. And then they give themselves permission to actually live the retirement they spent decades working towards. So if all you do is accumulate money without ever deciding what it's actually for, you'll probably end up with an unnecessary level of regret. You'll wonder whether you spend too much or too little. But when you intentionally align your money with your goals and values, retirement becomes about much more than just your account balance. It becomes about living a life that you work so hard to create. So if you're approaching retirement and you'd like to help building this kind of integrated retirement plan, one that connects all the dots between investments, retirement income, taxes, Social Security, healthcare decisions, and these legacy goals, we are more than happy to help. At Cornerstone Wealth Planning, that's exactly what we do every day with clients. And you're free to schedule a conversation using a link in the description below to have that free conversation with our team. If you found this video helpful, we do ask you to please subscribe so you don't miss future videos where we break down these retirement planning strategies into simple, practical ways that can help you retire with greater confidence. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.